Welcome to The Last Generation, the podcast where lived experience meets lasting change. I'm your host, Donna Simmons, author of Ashes to Flame, Transforming Trauma into Purpose, also a survivor, advocate, and truth teller. Some truths don't disappear. They're buried under paperwork, under excuses, under the silence of people who don't want us to see them. And in Kentucky, those buried truths have names: children, marriage licenses, and the very officials sworn to protect them.
Laws are only as good as the paper that they're written on. So you know what that means? It means that it's time for some new laws to be written in 2026 when we go back into session.
That was Senator Julie Rocky Adams standing up for Kentucky's children. I'm Donna Simmons, your host of The Last Generation. I'm also a survivor of child marriage, and today I want to take you inside what I discovered when I demanded answers about child marriage in Kentucky. This isn't theory. It isn't politics. It's evidence. It's lived reality. And it connects directly to the way trauma isn't just an event. It's a cycle, a wound that carries forward generation after generation until we finally say, enough. Now let's go back to 2018. Kentucky passed a law that was supposed to change everything. Before then, children as young as 13, 14, 15 were being legally married with parental consent and a judge's order. These were pregnant children married off to men decades older. One judge allowed a 13-year-old to marry a 33-year-old. Another signed off on a 15-year-old marrying a 52-year-old. I don't just read those cases with outrage, I lived it. I was a teenager in Kentucky who never got to finish high school because I was forced into a marriage. I dropped out in the 10th grade. That paper, that signature, ended my education, and with it, so many of the opportunities a child should be able to dream about. The 2018 law was supposed to be a turning point. It said no marriages under 17, safeguards for 17-year-olds, including judicial review, education requirements, a 4-year maximum age gap, a clear boundary with Kentucky's consent laws. On paper, it sounded like a new day: protection, safeguards, a chance for children to remain children. But here's the thing: a law without enforcement? Well, that's just a story that we tell ourselves to feel better. And so I asked, is Kentucky keeping its promise? I filed an open records request with the Office of Vital Statistics. I asked for data on child marriages since the law. When the data came back, my stomach dropped. 16-year-olds were still being married, some to people 12 years older. And instantly I thought, this isn't history. This is happening right now. And so I pressed harder. I asked for county-level data, who was signing off, where this was happening. And that's when the Office of Vital Statistics shut the door. They hid behind unrelated statutes about medical privacy. And for me, as a survivor, that wasn't just frustrating, it was re-traumatizing. Because secrecy is the language of abuse. But I didn't stop. I went to the governor's office. I spoke out publicly. And after a press conference exposed their refusal, the Office of Vital Statistics finally relented. And what the record showed was devastating. 15 counties violated the law in Kentucky. 15. This wasn't just sloppy paperwork. This was betrayal. When I look at those numbers, I don't just see statistics. I see myself. I see the 16-year-old me told that this was for the best. I see the girl who had to leave school in 10th grade, the girl who learned early that survival came at the cost of her future. And I see my mother. She too was a child bride, married off after only completing an 8th grade education, married to a soldier while still just a girl herself. She lived in poverty, carrying the weight of survival without the tools or choices that she deserved. And our stories are bound together by the same thread: silence, no options, no protection. The generational cycle of trauma repeating itself through different decades at the same cost. And that is what child marriage does. It doesn't just take away a childhood, it plants seeds of generational struggle. It writes poverty into family legacies, and it normalizes silence, sacrifice, and survival instead of thriving. And unless we stop it, those cycles repeat. Now, the truth is, this isn't just about me or even my mother. Kentucky already has the fourth highest rate of child abuse in the nation. 14 out of every 1,000 children here suffer abuse or neglect. So when you put that reality alongside 15 counties violating child marriage law, it paints a pretty devastating picture. Predators don't need accomplices with weapons when they have accomplices in government offices. Silence becomes the weapon. Paperwork becomes the cover, and children become the casualties. Hey, real quick, I've got something for you. If trust in your relationships has ever felt impossible, I know what it's like to want connection but feel scared to let anyone in. And that's why I created the Trust Blueprint. It's a trauma-informed guide to help you rebuild trust, set boundaries, and show up fully in your relationships. And this isn't just for you. Supportive partners will learn how to meet you where you are with patience, compassion, and understanding. Real healing doesn't happen alone. It happens together. The Trust Blueprint. Rebuild trust, reconnect with love, and start feeling safe again. Visit traumatopurpose.com and click on the Self-Paced Learning tab to learn more and get your download today.
Good night, itchy eyes. Good night, sudden sneeze. Good night to your symptoms of allergies. Zysol is the allergy medicine you take before bed. It provides powerful relief while you rest your head. Not just all night, but all the next day. Zysol keeps working, keeping allergies at bay. And without those annoying symptoms disturbing your rest, you can wake up the next morning feeling your absolute best. Remember, be wise all, take Zysol. At night.
Tonight, turn down the noise of the day and focus on the rest with AGZ, the nightly drink for winding down and resting up. New from AG1. AGZ supports your body's natural sleep cycle with clinically studied key herbs, adaptogens, and minerals in amounts supported by research. And no melatonin, helping you wake feeling rested. Wind down, rest up with AGZ. Learn more at drinkagz.com.
So let's recap what we know. In 2018, Kentucky banned marriage under 17. At least 15 counties have violated that law. The Office of Vital Statistics tried to bury the evidence, and children are still being signed away. That's not acceptable. And to the officials listening, a law without enforcement is a lie, and we will not let you lie to us anymore. To every listener, join us at R.I.S.E Kentucky Coalition. Reclaim innocence, stop exploitation. Visit traumatopurpose.com to find out how to sign the petitions, how to call your legislators, how to share this story, because children's lives matter more than the reputations of officials who are just trying to re-win elections. Before we close, I want to share something that goes beyond numbers, beyond laws, beyond even this investigation, because this isn't just about counties and statutes. It's about people, families, generations. And for me, it's about my own story. When I was forced into marriage, again, I never even finished the 10th grade. My education ended overnight, and I carried that shame for years. I couldn't even answer simple questions like, where did you graduate high school? And I believed that it was my fault. I believed that I wasn't enough. But the truth is, my story did not start with me. My mother, also having been a child bride, married to a soldier, herself only completing an 8th grade education, living in poverty, raising children in circumstances that honestly were never fair to her. She too had her choices stolen, and she passed down her survival skills because survival was all that she had ever been given. And this is what generational trauma looks like: cycles of silence, cycles of poverty, cycles of being told we are less than. And it doesn't end until someone says, enough. And that's why I wrote my memoir, Ashes to Flame, to unbury what was hidden, to show how those ashes, those moments of despair, loss, and silence can become the fuel for something powerful, something alive, something unshakable. And now I want to let you hear it in my own words. My first memory isn't of toys or laughter. It's of chaos. My mother faking a heart attack to get her way. I grew up learning that love was conditional, and that silence was survival, and that my worth was measured by what I could endure. By 13, I wasn't a child anymore, not in the ways that mattered. And at 14, I was sent to a psychiatric institution and labeled as broken. And that's where the grooming began. The man who was supposed to help me heal saw my pain as opportunity. He taught me what every predator teaches: that I was small, that I was dependent, that I was his to own. And at 16, he made that ownership legal. I became a child bride in America. And people ask me what that felt like, and here's the truth. It felt like prison without bars. It felt like screaming in a language no one spoke. And when I finally escaped, the system didn't save me, it caged me differently. I couldn't go to a domestic violence shelter because I wasn't 18. I couldn't rent an apartment because I couldn't sign a lease. I couldn't consent to my own medical care, but the law said I could be married to a grown man in his 30s. And when I had a child, do you know what the judge did? He handed my abuser custody and then ordered me to pay him child support. The law didn't just fail me, it protected him. I went from working in a strip club to survive, to being homeless, to trying to mother through supervised visits while navigating a system designed to break me. And yet, I refused to stay silent. Because survival wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning of a revolution. I wrote Ashes to Flame because I believe this: your past is not a life sentence. It's the birthplace of your purpose. And today I fight to end child marriage in the United States because no child should endure what I did. No child should be forced to call their rapist husband. No child should lose custody of their baby to their abuser. No child should be told this is the best you can hope for. So when you hear my story, don't just feel something, do something. Join me in changing these laws, breaking these cycles, and building a future children don't spend decades of their lives trying to recover from. Because if I've learned anything, it's this: silence is the most dangerous part of abuse. And healing is the loudest rebellion there is. And that's my story. And it's why I cannot and will not stay silent while the cycle continues. Because here's the truth. The silence ends here. The cycle ends with us. And together, we rise. I'm Donna Simmons, and this is The Last Generation. Next week's episode launches our next series, Voices from the Frontline of Legacy. In this series, I will be interviewing experts in the fields of social work, child protection, mental health, and other focus areas for breaking cycles of generational trauma. Subscribe to this podcast now for updates and previews. Thank you for listening and for your part of becoming the last generation. You've been listening to The Last Generation, transforming trauma into purpose. For more resources, visit traumatopurpose.com. If this episode resonated with you, consider leaving a review and joining the community online. Subscribe, and let's transform together.
This podcast is part of the Sound Advice FM network. Sound Advice FM, women's voices amplified.